So let's go straight to you, Amy Adams. You've been right there when you had chaos in the caucus room. And this is the price you pay for that, really, isn't it? That voters just punish you for disunity.
Yeah. Look, there's no doubt that COVID has been the massive number one influence on this election, but I'm not going to hide from the fact that it hasn't been the tidiest of years for National. We've had a lot of self-inflicted wounds along the way, and you can't have that. You know, if you're up against a first-term government, popular Prime Minister, national crisis where there's that urge to rally around the government that's there, you cannot have disunity and disquiet and leaking and some of the things we've had. And so we haven't helped ourselves, but COVID has been the start, the middle and the end of this election, this campaign and this result.
Do you wish you'd stuck with Bridges, Simon Bridges?
Oh, look, you can go back and relitigate where we would have got to, but the party was, and the caucus was pretty clear that the numbers were looking particularly grim at that stage. It was a case of needing to do what we could to try and turn the result around. The caucus made its decision along the way, and then, of course, obviously, we had another change with Todd Muller's unfortunate health. Judith's picked it up at a hard stage, and I think, as I said earlier, campaigned very well.
Yeah, has she had
a big mountain to climb?
Oh, of course it was. Has she had support there, though? We heard there at national headquarters that just one MP there. I guess victory has many friends, but failure is an orphan, or something to that effect.
This is a hard night for National. These are people, not just the MPs and the party board, but the volunteers up and down the country who put hours and hours of blood, sweat and tears into this party, and it's devastating to see results like this. Seats that we never thought would be at risk.
Let's talk about that, because you talked about blood, sweat and tears, but it's mainly blood, isn't it?
Tonight it's not pretty.
2 or 3 seats in the South Island. I think we've got one of those horseshoe graphics, the Parliament graphic, to have a look at the bigger picture for those of you who are watching on television. There it goes there. So if you take an ACT as well, you'd have 43 seats on the centre-right, but just 33 for National, 10 extra for ACT, facing up against a behemoth really on the left there. 77 seats we're seeing for the left, which would be 66 from Labour and 11 seats for the Green Party. I mean, context-wise, 25%, that's about where Labour was and David Cunliffe, pretty much exactly where he was in 2014. They rebuild and won. But can Judith Collins stay on at that result? By her own admission, 35 was the low point, wasn't it?
Not a long-term option, was what she said. She has qualified that in recent times, saying she said that at a very different time in the party's polling, but I think actually what she said in the past is now irrelevant with this kind of result. I don't know if National MPs are going to have any kind of tolerance at all to see her stay on in the leadership. Again, early days, but that must be the feeling amongst them, because this is, despite COVID, despite everything, she has to take personal responsibility. She was asked that in one of the debates, whether she would take responsibility, and she actually said, no, I've done everything that I can, and was laying the groundwork, as we've seen from Jerry Brownlee and Melissa Lee, for COVID, but that is only one element of this election defeat.
Yeah, and look, I think too, you've got to be realistic and say you replace a leader when you've got a better one. You don't just throw one out and then cast around. You've got to ask yourself as a caucus, do we have a leader we think would put us in a better position? And
how would you answer that question?
Well, right now, my advice to the party was you need to get unified. You need to get on the same page. You need to play as a team. Get behind get in behind your leader, back them, and work as a unit. And if you're not doing that, it doesn't matter how much you move the.
But could you get behind a leader who gets 25% though?
Well, if I was sitting in that caucus room post the election, and obviously I won't be, the question I'd be asking myself is, do we have an option that I think makes us stronger, or are we better to stick on the path we're on? And as I said, I think Judith has done a very good job.
So you'd stick with Judith?
I would be sticking with Judith in this stage and for the next few months. I mean, 3 years is a long term, certainly. But I think to make a radical change off the back of this without having a very strong contender coming through. I mean, you look at what happened, obviously, to Labour just before the last election. The reality was they had a very popular MP coming through that everyone was talking up and wanting to know about. National at this stage doesn't have an obvious contender to replace her. Don't sort of throw everything out and then cast around. Figure out how to play as a team. let some of the new MPs develop their craft and see where you find yourself in 18 months' time.
I think, though, you only have to look at the last election. Bill English, ran a really strong campaign. They won the party vote. It was only a matter of months before the white anting began, the destabilisation. I mean, he was given months and the mana and respect that he had within the party. So, again, probably good advice, Amy. I just don't know if this caucus
I didn't
is
support
going
that.
to be able to...
I wanted to see Bill English stay in that role for a lot longer than he did, but that wasn't the way.
What about the campaign, though, and what went wrong? I take your point that Judith Collins, look, it was a hospital pass. There was a mountain to climb there. She gave it absolutely everything.
She